What's up, guys? How's it going? Happy Friday. I feel like I always start late, so my apologies to everyone. Hopefully, this is working. Hopefully, you're having a good Friday. All that good stuff. But yeah, thought I'd kick things off today with a little bit of iPad stuff and talking about something I'm working on here. So let me cut over real quick. Make sure this other camera is set up. Last time some of you wanted to see kind of over my shoulder here. Alright, that should be good. I'm going to go a little bit wider. You guys can't see what I'm doing. I'm just tweaking this camera. But we're almost to a point where I feel like I've got this streaming thing down. Hey everybody, Vicari, welcome back. Jason, what's up? How you doing? Alright, so I don't know how many of you use iPads. If you don't and you're tired of this, too bad. But that's what I'm doing today. So at least I'm kicking things off with a little bit of iPad stuff here. So I wanted to kind of show you guys a little bit of what I'm trying to do with my new iPad brushes. So previously, well, I have two brush packs really. And actually, let me just make a new file here. I'm just in Procreate. So I just want to show you guys a couple differences. So this is my brush pack and I still use it. It's pretty solid. And I think one of the things that was really, I guess, challenging is to try and replicate these textures and the feel of all the tools digitally. So one thing I've done, of course, is I have a matte screen protector on my iPad, which totally helps it feel a lot more like paper. But I also want the look of paper. So that's something I've been trying to continually improve. And so initially, like I said, I have my ballpoint pen tool here, which works pretty well. We have this pencil, and these are currently available on my store if you want to try them. And this pencil is kind of just a digital pencil that has a really nice thick to thin. But even then, if I want some variation on what I'm doing, I often like to try different brushes and have that texture. So here's my marker brush. You can see it's kind of streaky. And as far as blending goes, it does maintain the streaks. You can adjust pressure and get a nice blend. We had the Prismacolor brush, or yeah, Prismacolor pencil here, and where I can take the Apple Pencil, tilt it, and start to shade. So a couple cool things I can do there. And then last but not least, we had, and I added a couple here, but a nice soft airbrush just for filling things in. But I want to point out a couple differences. So let me turn off this layer, make a new layer. And so what I did is I've been working on a set of new brushes. So I've got this blending marker and what I'm calling a real marker. These are just working names for now. But the idea here was to create something a bit more realistic or applicable to kind of my workflow as a designer and specifically as an industrial designer. So let me take you through kind of what I'm working on and what's likely to be included in this whole brush pack. So I'll start off with this blending marker. So a couple things I noticed with the initial marker that I had. It's a good brush, but I wanted to be able to mimic the ability with my real markers. So if I'm using like a chart pack or ad marker or something like that, I'll actually sometimes do some pressure modifications while I'm drawing. So for example here, this is just a chart pack marker. If I just peel off, so start heavy, kind of peel off, right? And I want to be able to essentially build tone as I'm going. And let me use a pen here to show you where these strokes ended. But you can see there's kind of a blend that's starting to happen, right? So let me do that again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and really what I'm trying to do is create a nice smooth blend. So with this new brush, what I've been able to do is create something that does kind of mimic this. So I can start with heavy pressure and fade off, okay? And I can blend together. So I wanted to create something that mimicked my real process and technique, and have that available for you guys in Procreate. So there will be some special hookups for people who support me on Patreon. I forgot to put that link on my little live setup here, but like I said, it's getting better every week. But patreon.com/sketchaday, if you want to sign up, I'll be giving some early access to brushes there, as well as some other tools that I'm creating that'll be exclusive to Patreon supporters, as well as people in the newsletter mailing list. So you'll want to sign up for those. But like I said, it's similar to a real marker in that I am able to build up my tone and still have, you know, this kind of streaky look if I want. But a couple additions I've made here, I've added a little bit of a paper texture. So this is going to help things feel less digital and more real, which again, for me in my sketching, this is kind of my thing, is I like the real feel of tools wherever possible. So that's what I'm trying to do with these brushes, is just really mimic all that. Okay, so that's the marker, and so that's the straight line blending, but you can also scrub, fill an area, scrub again, fill, and scrub if you want to, you know, create that blend. So one thing that's a little tricky I'm finding with Procreate is the ability for the brush to follow the stroke. Now there is a setting once you get this brush, and I'll be creating videos to explain how to do all these, is if you, and thanks to, I forgot his name, but one of our fans here emailed me and taught me this, but if you slide this all the way to the right, you can have it follow your stroke. It's not perfect, however, so see, it does some funky stuff there, but that's something you'll be able to play with if you want when you install this brush, for example. All right, so that's the blending marker, and then I have what I'm calling a real marker as well. So just something that's, as far as texture goes, it's using a bit less aggressive texture on the canvas, so to speak. And so if you want to have something that you can blend but also just mimic that paper feel, I feel like this is a pretty good approximation, and I'm super happy with it. So those are the markers. There's also this dynamic marker, like I said, I've been playing with, just the ability for the marker to kind of follow your stroke, and you can kind of see how it rotates here just toward the end of the stroke. So as I stroke down, you'll see that it starts a little bit angled and then ends up straight. So experimental, not totally settled on it, but just wanted to show that to you guys as well. One of the other things that was apparent with my older brushes as well is that, let me jump back to, say, my stencil here. So let's draw a cylinder. And if you guys have any questions or suggestions, I'm totally open to that as well, about what to sketch today, but I just wanted to run you through what I've kind of been up to. So let's say I have this cylindrical shape here and maybe another one here. Okay, so normally what I would do is create a new layer and then take this soft airbrush if I'm trying to render this in a way that has a shadow core and so forth, and kind of work the sketch. So I'd work it like that, and you can kind of see what the goal here is to have a somewhat concentrated amount of darkness in the middle and a fade out to the sides. So what I would do is then reduce the size of the brush and kind of hit a little bit more on the inside so that you get this nice blend happening. But to me, that's a lot of work. So what I wanted to do was make a brush that really could just give me, shall we say, the perfect highlight. Okay, so I've been experimenting a bit with these air highlighters. So for example, here's a crisp air highlighter that I can use, and Now with one stroke, I get a nice dark core with some fade off. So if I'm doing something a little shinier, say a chrome cube or something like that, I can have these highlight lines. So for example, a little bit smaller there, a little bit smaller, another one here, and it's just a quick way to throw highlights on my sketches, okay? Or not really highlights, but shadow cores in this instance. So there's a crisp version. Here's another variation on that. I currently am testing these with a couple friends, so you'll be able to get access to them soon, but just gathering some feedback. But again, wanted to create a better airbrush for your highlights and your shadow cores and so forth. So that's something I've been working on all week, actually. There's also this Air Highlighter Soft. So again, if you're trying to create these shadow core type effects, you know, having the right brush makes a huge difference, as you can see. So rather than having this big soft airbrush, we now have airbrushes that are a bit more purposed for adding your highlights and so forth. Playing with a little bit of texture as well. Here's a dirty airbrush. It's a little bit harder to see, but it does have some of that pixelation and grain to it that makes, at least for me, my drawings feel a bit more realistic, natural, and so forth. Because ultimately, that's usually my goal, is to have. And there you can see the texture in that brush. Very subtle, but these are all the little details that make a big difference in the end drawing. So if you've ever seen a sketch and you're like, oh man, why does it look that way? A lot of it has to do with the types of brushes that are being used. And then, you know, just continuing to refine the original airbrush. And this one is a soft airbrush, but it also has a soft core. So I'm able to get that nice, smooth transition fade, if you will, as I'm creating these highlights. So hopefully this one makes sense to you guys. For me, I'm super excited because it's going to save me a ton of time as I'm drawing. All right, so that's the airbrushes and the marker. I've also created some digital stencils that are a bit rougher because I wanted, just zoom in here so you can see, I wanted there to be this texture to my stroke. Again, very subtle, but I really wanted that feel. I guess I always draw car wheels, but I wanted that feel of kind of natural media, right? And if you want to sharpen the pencil, so to speak, you can always reduce the size here and you get the smaller stroke. Well, with this pencil, I can shade much like the Prismacolor pencil I had. Let me make sure we have a layer here to work on. So if I want to just shade a quick core on this cylinder, I can do that, or just erase that. Or unlike the other stencil, I can actually tilt this one if I want to as well. And it does give me a bit rougher shadow core. It's still light, something I have to kind of build up and shade on. But it's something that, you know, I like having that versatility as opposed to just being able to draw in one dimension. So that's the, let's see, oh, there we go. So yeah, that's this rough stencil, if you will. And I have another version I'm kind of playing with just to see which one I like better. But this one shades a little differently and a little heavier than the other one. So I may include both. We'll see. Personally, I like to kind of have a concise toolkit, but options are also kind of nice as well. And then there's an even cleaner digital version of this brush that will be available with, you know, it still has in the stroke, it still has that kind of rough edge to it, almost as if it's on paper, but it's entirely digital. So that's the stencil. Now, for some fun ones, I wanted to create. I like using watercolor washes from time to time, particularly as I do landscapes and so forth. So I created this watercolor wash brush by actually creating, scanning, and putting in ink blots. So I took photos, and all these brushes are real textures from real photos or real processes that I used. Okay, so in this case, here's this watercolor brush. And so if I wanted to just have kind of a painterly look to a sketch, I could do that as well. But like I said, if you're just looking to, you know, kind of wash your page or something like that, that's something you can certainly do as well. And the colors do blend together, right? So it does have that feel of, hey, this paper is actually wet. And you know, I can put some red and you'll see that the red color is starting to blend, and the more I put down here, and if I go lighter and so forth. So it's really fun to play with this one. If you like painting, if you like you know, having the flexibility or ability to do that, try something different for your sketch. I think it's a pretty good brush. So these are all originally created, thought up by me. Here's another one, another version of that. And I'm trying to determine what the main differences are and how to really quantify that. But they do have kind of different feels to them. So again, this will be available in the brush pack, and you know, looking forward to feedback from you guys. All right, so the last set of brushes I've created, I'm just gonna talk about here. So, and I'll point out a couple. So there's some mesh fabric, that kind of things. Particularly as you're, if rather, you are a footwear designer or something along those lines, it's really handy to have textures at the ready that you can use. And if you want to just kind of increase the depth of your sketch or concept. So I've created these in an effort to allow you to do that. So let's start with something like the knit here. Normally, if I'm applying a texture, it's always on the layer above, play with the opacity blending mode, and so forth. So let's just do that. And as I paint, you'll see that the texture now shows up on this area. Well, I can change the layer blending mode to, say in this case, linear light, okay? And on the layer on top of that, if I jump back to my airbrush, for example, or marker, either way, I'm just gonna use this dirty brush and make sure my layer is set to multiply in this instance. I can now start to add some tone to this texture. So we have tone, color, texture, all that good stuff with these brushes. So if you haven't used Procreate, but you do have an iPad, I highly recommend it. No, they don't pay for or sponsor any of this. I just love the app and how easy it is to use and simple. So something you can try out. So that's one texture. Let's do another one here. And I'm gonna pick, let's see, let's do color burn. And let's pick, say, this mesh texture. So again, I can just paint, and now I have some sort of mesh texture on my sketch. Okay, now it's not going to warp the texture. So if you wanted to do that, you could, you know, hit transform here under warp, and now I can kind of shape this as I want. But again, the ability to just put down a texture wherever you want it, have that at the ready, I think is pretty handy. At least for me, it has been so far. So hopefully you guys enjoy that one. So again, there's a little highlight and a little bit of shadow. Now we have some depth. Okay, pretty easy, pretty quick, and I think pretty handy. All right, so one of my favorite ones, though, I want to show you guys. So I have this brush, and I'm gonna change this to color burn as well. Oops, looks like I gotta. Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to pause the stream real quick. My kid's school is calling, as you can see. Okay, I'm back. My apologies. Now you know the number for my kid's school, so enjoy that. So where was I? Oh, speckle. So I have this brush, which is my little speckle airbrush here, and It's pretty cool. I actually sampled this texture from a, not a banana. This was a spray paint. So I can just, I did some spray paint sampling. But again, I wanted to create something that could give me a nice randomized speckle texture. And so as you can see, it's pretty cool. And this is, again, this is just a texture I came up with, painted on here. So right now what it's doing is imagining that the whole canvas is that texture. There are some options you can tweak in the brush if you want to, let's say, have this be moving, okay, and go with the brush. So there's just some additional options to make it a little bit more versatile that you can play with, but there you go. Pretty handy, pretty cool, I think, way to apply just some different textures that maybe are a bit more organic or real to your sketches. So again, just something I'm consistently working on. Here's a couple experimental ones. So if you do shoes a lot, sometimes you're doing stitches, that kind of thing. So I can actually use this brush to create stitches as I'm drawing. So again, pretty handy if you're doing that. And it's not perfect. You'll notice that the strokes aren't perfectly aligned. That has a bit to do with the orientation of the canvas and how it's rotated. So that's something you'll have to pay for. What I have found is that if you're zoomed out and the canvas is at 90 degrees, then it actually has a more perfect follow. But if I rotate the canvas, now I get this weird brush stroke. Let's see, it's not even doing it. Oh, it's because it's on color burn. So now I get this weird configuration of the stroke. So it seems that in Procreate, the brush strokes do kind of infer from the canvas position how they appear, but pretty handy. And then I've got this other brush, little stitcher brush. So if you're trying to do like a baseball stitch, I think it's called, or like something you might see on a t-shirt or serger stitch, you can do that here. Not entirely sure if I'll include those, but we'll see. And then I've also got this one, which I used on a sketch actually. I'll show you how. So here, just on the shoe sketch I was working on, I actually used this brush to kind of shade in some of the lace texture here. So just like this on the laces, and ended up being pretty handy, right? So if I just want to quickly have some lace texture, okay, you can even adjust the settings so that fades out. But again, still just playing with all this. But you can get creative with these, right? So if I wanted to texture an area, I could just put down random strokes, that kind of thing, lower the opacity and so forth. Or if I want to add, I already added some speckle here, but if I want to add some to this purple area, I can do that as well, right? So adjust the size even. So now I have a little bit of this speckle stuff going on. And again, it just helps your sketches feel less precise, which I think lends to the human quality of your sketches and your work. So you guys tell me if there's a brush that you use or a tool that you use that you'd love to see in Procreate. Let me know. I'm going to be putting that together. I'm also doing some interesting things with paper texture that will be available, palettes, and there will be video content to go along with this release. So we're not just going to shove you off into the ocean of possibility and say good luck. There will be guides that come as an option when you do purchase the brushes. So keep an eye out for that. Look out for it. Thanks for sitting through that. But I've been having fun this week kind of working on those. So hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for stopping in and being a part of the stream today. If this is your first time, definitely subscribe, hit alerts. And if this is your first time joining on a Friday, I love suggestions. So we have one from Moxie Maxis. Can you show how you come up with concept sketching without the use of existing products? Yes, I can. But I need a product idea. So you guys give me some product ideas. I'm going to warm up. And while I warm up, I'm just going to be watching for things that you guys suggest. So you let me know. I'm going to put the iPad to the side here for now. So let me know what you'd like to see. There's my sketch from this week's video that I had up as well. And I'm just going to use some cheap newsprint to warm up. These are some old sketches. Either cheap newsprint or this printer paper. I'll start with that. Like love, did you miss anything? Yes, I went through all my brushes that I use on Procreate. So if that's something you're interested in, you'll want to catch the stream afterward, and then check out that information. But I'm releasing some new brushes soon, so open to suggestions, ideas, and so forth. Video game controller, okay, that works. We can do that. Although I did do a video game controller sketch, so I'll wait for a couple more ideas. Hello, person speaking Russian. I have no idea what that says, but hello. So I'm just going to warm up with some circles here, lines, while you guys throw down some ideas. But this is how I typically warm up: circles, lines, ellipses, and so forth. Draw with your shoulder. Okay, and if you guys have ever wondered what that means, draw with your shoulder, let's see if I can zoom out a little bit. So here's my elbow, my shoulder's right here. As I'm drawing, I'm trying to not move my wrist, but rather just draw with my shoulder and my elbow as the pivots as much as possible. So that's what I mean by drawing with your shoulder. A watch. Okay. Watch is a good idea. I could even use ballpoint and some chart packs for that. So yeah, just some ellipses, like so. Okay, I'll add a watch to the list. Anything else come to mind for you guys? It is March of Robots, so I'm happy to do a robot, but I think you guys want to see products today, so I'll wait for a few more suggestions, and we'll go with that. Just as we warm up. Also, what do you guys think of the camera setup this time? Post-apocalyptic armored bicycle. That sounds interesting. What do you guys think of the camera setup? Is that working? Do you like having the over shoulder as well? Kind of the layout, all that stuff. I'm just curious. I put the links up because people always ask, you know, hey, how do I find you online? If I wanted to contribute, how do I do that? So that's why the Venmo and PayPal are there. No, you're not required to do that, but it is much appreciated if you do. In fact, I got a generous donation from, I believe it was Chad, and so I'll be doing some additional content at his request based on his donation. So that's another way. If you want to have a specific video done, I'm open to, you know, donation, figuring something out, and then I'll do that video for you guys. All right, so we got lamp, Eames chair, let's see, video game controller, but the whole thing is coming up with concepts that don't exist. So when I'm sketching something and trying to come up with a concept for a product, usually there's a certain set of criteria, right? So let's say it is a watch. Let's do that one first. Okay, so I'm gonna run through some questions. You know, well, there's some beginning assumptions, right? So it's probably something you wear on your wrist, for example. Is it analog or digital? Right? How are people using it? How is it used? So is it like a sports watch? Is it just, you know, basic time teller? Is it more like, hey, you know, I'm an outdoor explorer? Things like that. Okay. So I think, you know, as far as design goes, context certainly matters. So how and where, I guess wrist, but really it's about where is it worn. Because my assumption here is that you're wearing this watch on your wrist, but let's say you, oh, thank you, Harry. Let's say you wanted to, maybe switch the context up. It's like, hey, this is actually an ankle watch. You might then say, oh, okay, what if you wore it on your ankle? So I like to ask a lot of what if questions and why, trying to understand a lot of that because that's going to really drive the design process in terms of what the thing is. So I'm trying to think. Other questions might be around material. I think these are secondary things. The material, um, the color, that kind of thing. Those aren't primary because as a designer, my job is to come up with functionally relevant solutions for real people that enhance their lives, right? So, material, color, and with material, you have things like texture and finish. Let's see, texture, finish. There's also brand to consider. Okay, and for brand, you're going to be taking inputs from image boards, for example, or it might be trend research as you're working. So you may have a trend research team, you may not. As a designer, you may put together some image board with inspirational things that are perhaps relevant to the brand. So let's say an aspirational company for this project might be Apple, or it could be Sony or Samsung, that kind of thing. Then it starts to at least contain a bit of the exercise in the sense that you can now frame the discussion around some crystal clear objectives by establishing your trajectory using an image board, or it might be research or that kind of thing. So that's what I mean by considering the brand. So these are just a few things that come to mind, and I'm probably missing some stuff. The design process is messy, all that stuff. So I'm going to just put this here and keep this. But as a designer, I think it's your job to ask the right questions, specifically from the people who might be using your product or who that target consumer might be. So let's assume, again, this is going to be on the wrist. Okay, I'm going to go with, I don't really like doing digital watches. I think they are kind of boring. So let's do an analog watch. I'm going to say it's a sports watch. Okay, so something meant for being active, for, oh, what's up, Steph? Something that's meant for like an active lifestyle or being out and about. And then materials, we'll figure that out as we go, color and so forth. As far as aspirational brands, I'm just going to assume I'm going to be pulling from my own experience here. So first thing I want to do, let's just start with a central axis. I like to draw kind of two ellipses to start, and then determine, at which position the watch is going to be. Actually, I should be using marker paper for this because I'm going to be using some big, juicy chart packs here. Although I don't really care that much because it is on printer paper. So we'll just go ahead and use the printer paper. And then now I can start to identify, okay, I want my face to be somewhere here on my watch. We can divide that up, draw our ellipse, draw another ellipse, and now I have something of a indication of a circular watch face. So, and the reason I went with that is I was thinking as I was sitting here, I was like, okay, this is a sports watch. Let's just keep it simple, and we'll have a couple buttons for maybe start, stop, timer, maybe a little bit of a mode indicator as well. So if it's a chronograph, it's going to have, well, I guess it would have a knob. So I forgot that. I'm not really a watch designer, so I'm just pulling from my own experience here to kind of make this work. Okay, and now we figure out, okay, how do we want this thing to connect to a band? Well, I'm going to assume, or if I'm thinking rather, if I were drawing a side view of this thing, so we've got kind of the main watch body here, something like this. So maybe this is the main watch body and then the bands come out. Okay, something like that. Here would be my dial. Let's actually put the dial above the screen a little bit, And then maybe we have 2 mode buttons as well. Or maybe it's another dial. These are all things we get to decide as we're working here. And with a ballpoint pen, it's nice because you can work light until you get it right, until you're at a spot where you feel somewhat confident. I almost pinched to zoom on my paper, so this is, again, one of the reasons I like to sketch on paper, because it reminds me that no, you have to work within the constraint of reality here, as opposed to, you know, being able to undo everything and filter everything and make it all perfect. So if you want to improve your skills at all, definitely recommend using real media where possible, because it does kind of push you to focus on the craft of what you're doing and the execution, because there are no takebacks unless you're using a pencil. But we're not in kindergarten, so at least I don't think any of you are in kindergarten or preschool. Alright, so I know I said draw with your shoulder, but when I do have something smaller like this, I like to kind of take my time and feather those lines and just get something, if I'm trying to define, say, an area like this, kind of just work that line until it has enough contrast. You can even add some shading here. These ballpoint pens are super juicy, by the way, the Bic Cristal. Super juicy, so there's a little bit of smudging on the page as well. But let's just have a couple markers here. A couple of time indicators, and maybe there is a little digital screen in here. Just a small thing, and maybe it just has some secondary information that we might want to have show up. So again, all that contextual information that you decide up front, that kind of helps you determine what the thing is. Because if this had a different purpose, it might have a different shape, it might have a different form, all that stuff. Okay. So rather than connecting the bands, I'm going to, and this will just be a traditional buckle style band. Okay, so a little buckle here, and maybe another one here. The reason for this is, at least in my head, it's easier to not complete this ellipse than it would be to try and complete it and figure it out. So that's why I'm doing this and not completing the shape. Okay, a couple holes for our closure, like so. And now, hopefully you guys caught this video as well. Because I'm using Chartpak markers, I can actually shade on top of the ballpoint pen without it smudging the ballpoint, which turns out is pretty handy if you like sketching with a ballpoint pen. Personally, it doesn't matter too much what I'm sketching with, but you know, there were a few questions. I believe it was Chad wanted to know a bit more about Chartpak markers and blending and how that works. So there will be some additional content on that coming forward, but they do smell very toxic, and I did some research, and yes, xylene is a toxic solvent. So if you are doing this, make sure your room is ventilated sufficiently so you don't pass out. But you know, permanent ink has decent ability to blend. My issue with Chartpaks tends to be more around the color gradation. So these are all gray, for example. These are all grays. And so I can put these down. So here's, you know, one. Oh wait, no. Oh yeah, that was one. I guess I have two basic gray one. Here's two. I'll just skip ahead. This is 4. We'll get 3. Just a sec here. So this is 3. And this isn't exclusive to this gray. This is really an issue with the others as well. And this is 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this one, to me, to my eyes, seems fairly neutral. This one seems cool. And then we go back to kind of a warm / green. This one feels almost purple or blue to me. And then this one definitely feels green. Now, you probably can't see it on the camera here just because of the lighting, but actually let me switch and see if that helps. But you can kind of see it on this camera. This isn't the best camera on my over shoulder, but there's a lot of color variation here. So as opposed to something like my Copic markers, they tend to be a lot more consistent. Okay, let's see. We had a lamp, Eames chair. So it would be a similar thing. I just have to decide on, you know, what's the structure of the lamp. Is this an adjustable task lamp? Where is it going to be used? Does it clip onto something? Let's say I wanted to make a lamp, like I have this idea just now. You know, what if you could, and this is just a schematic drawing almost, but what if you had a lamp that could clip on, something like this, perhaps, and I could squeeze it and it clips onto things. So, you know, if there's a wire or something, then I could have this lamp clip on, that kind of thing. And now that I'm thinking about it, you know, so this is maybe the genesis of the idea. I want to have something that is able to clip onto things but also illuminate. So now I'd ask the question, okay, what part of this would I use to illuminate? Would it be, you know, do these end pieces kind of light up, right? But now I have two different light sources. Maybe it makes more sense to have the light source separate from the clippy thing, right? So if I had maybe some battery powered thing. So that's where I think creativity comes in, is like as you're sketching, and these are the types of sketches I do as I'm thinking things out, not necessarily presenting concepts. But I may think through things like this, or instead of a clip, what if it's just a loop, right? And then this lamp could just hang from things. So maybe it's some organic weird thing like this, and you know, it has this fatty tail or something, so I can wrap it around stuff. So that's one way to do it. And then you might go, oh, well, if you can wrap it around stuff, what if it were just a whole tube, right? So if it were something like this, I've already bungled this sketch, but maybe it's like some sort of light tube where this portion can illuminate, and then this portion here is just for like gripping onto stuff. Maybe it's like a light worm. Okay, so if I were doing, and maybe I say, oh, you know, this is actually interesting, I'd want to spend some time on that. So now I would start sketching this thing out, and you know, you kind of want to show it in context, always helpful. So let's go ahead and sketch this thing wrapped around. So I'm imagining if I were drawing a central axis here, you know, maybe there's this tail, and it wraps around into this light nub, so to speak. I kind of want to do this one on marker paper, so this is probably going to be the weirdest sketch I do live, but let's see how it goes. Alright, and I'm going to switch to pencil for this one, I think. Unless I'm feeling confident enough here to do something like my Paper Mate flares, but we'll see. All right. So let me just grab some other tools here. Okay, so I got my trusty markers handy. It's awesome. Let's make sure these guys are working. All right, so like I said, maybe start off by just sketching what this thing's hanging on. Kind of trace that a little bit. It's kind of weird, but we'll roll with it. This might actually be a good opportunity because I know some people have been asking me, how do you sketch translucent or transparent things? You know, how does that work? So we can do that here. See, Harry says, I have Chartpak and some of those colors look the same with different names. Yeah, absolutely. It seems to be the case that things are fairly inconsistent. I actually don't like the shape. It's weirding me out, so let's modify it. But yeah, it seems to be the case that the blending just isn't the best on Chartpak. So that's something you'll want to definitely look out for. All right. So I do like the idea of this kind of hanging lamp, but I do want to change the shape. So I'm going to do that, and we'll just do kind of a straight thing here, and kind of this tail wraps over. All right, I'm feeling better about this. I don't feel as awkward. All right, so we got this little thing. Maybe it's a cable. Actually, there wouldn't be a gap there. So I'm gonna do it one more time. One more time, people. We got this. Okay. And this is it. So yeah, sometimes it does take a few attempts to, you know, get a sketch that works. And that's okay. Got a little wavy there. Alright, so maybe we have this concept and we can do another sketch to support kind of the main sketch here. Just a quick rough. Rough sketch, maybe another one. On the side, and these two are gonna kind of support our main sketch by explaining, you know, maybe this is 1 and this is 2, kind of what's happening here. All right. And since it is going to be translucent or transparent, I'm going to throw a quick double line on the outside here. And then as far as the lighting element goes, I'm just going to have this little thing volcano out, and then that'll be kind of like my LED array or something like that. Let's see. Chad says, I love my Chartpak, but I don't see many others use them. I have a hard time blending them. Yeah, I think some of that is just really the color gradation, but there are a couple things that'll help. Marker paper for one. I'll be showing you the difference on marker paper, vellum, tracing paper, all that good stuff. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Okay. I'm feeling blue for this one, so that's what we're gonna go with. And I'll just shade the outside first, but again, And this really goes back to that initial question. Thank you for asking about, you know, how you come up with creative ideas as a designer while designing. And I doubt this is completely original. I'm pretty sure I've seen something similar to it now that I think about it. So, looks like my marker's drying out. Time to dig into the marker stash here. All right, we got blue. Boom, boom, boom. See if I have another blue tube. Oh, I do, right there. Nice and juicy. But yes, I do think the Copic markers tend to blend a little bit better. But there's certainly technique to applying the marker in a way that allows them to blend. Paper makes a big difference as well. So there you go. All right, so there's my weird blue thing, and I don't want these to detract too much from the main sketch, so I'll just tone these up with some gray. It's a little dark, but I'm gonna use, actually no, I found my 30. Sweet, sweet. All right, just a little gray here. Gray there. And maybe I have a note. It says something like flexible tail or flex tail. And this is straight. Couple texture dots. Sup, cat daddy? Texture dots. Seems like a couple of my friends are joining today, so welcome. Hello. I stream on Fridays at 9. I've heard I'm coming to Mexico. Yes, I am going to Mexico. Actually, I may be going to Mexico 3 times this year. So we'll see. Little shadow there. But I will be in country. I mean, I'm watching the whole virus thing to see how that all shakes out, but I should be visiting, so maybe I'll run into you. Definitely won't be streaming that week or those weeks, but I will have videos online, so they'll still post. I don't know, maybe I'll have good enough internet connection down there that I can stream. We'll see. Okay, now for the light portion, I think what I'm going to do here, this is going to waste so much black ink, but I'm going to do it anyways, because I love you guys. So this portion of the sketch, I'm going to do, at least maybe from this side on, I'll do a gradient from dark to lighter. So I'll just start with the black on this side, like so. And then come in just like this, because you want to show that this thing's working, like it's lighting up something. So I just have this Copic wide marker, pretty handy. So I'm just going to create a fade here with the marker. So I started with black. I'm going to jump to a 90%. I mean, I'm probably going to have to get rid of these notes for my blend. Actually, maybe just on the top. We'll do the blend. So now I'm 90%, and we can jump to 70, 60, so forth. Here's a 70% gray. And just kind of scrubbing the paper. This one's drying out, so I'm going to put this in the to be refilled pile. Looks like this one's drying out too. Man, I've gotta do some marker care today. Sometimes I forget. Another 70. Yes, I do have a lot of markers, people. I do, because I love this stuff. All right, some 70 there, and then we'll go, 60. Maybe we'll finish it off with 60 on the top. And then down here, I'm just gonna scrub this black with the 60. And then maybe do a little bit of kind of randomized marker stroke here just to blend out the rest. So there's no hard and fast rule like, oh, this is how it has to be done. I used to think that was the case with markers and all that stuff, but it's really just, hey, make the tool work for you and with you, with how you draw. If you have a creative idea, just try it, make a mistake and see if it works out for you. Actually, oh yeah, there we go. So at an angle, hopefully you can kind of see how this looks. I will be scanning and posting these as always, because when you scan, it looks a little bit different. So just something to keep mindful of. Okay, so now I have like a dark and light kind of setup here. For the light, I could use like a really pale yellow or whatever color the light is here. I'm going to go with a yellow core. So let me grab my yellow markers. And then we'll see which ones we want to use here. Alright, so yellow markers. Let's see, I've got this 4, this 00. I'm definitely looking for something very, very light, and I don't know the numbers perfectly, so I always kind of end up checking and seeing what I have. I'm going from there. I've got this yellow 11 as well. So I've got some colors I can use, and we'll start with those. So let's start with this yellow 11. Just paint the core like so. Now I can jump to my 13 here. It's kind of crazy this marker is still alive. Like if you look at the marker, it's actually like, here's a newer Copic, and here's this one. This one is not dried out. I mean, it's been around for probably 8 to 10 years. It hasn't dried out. So I posted on Instagram a little while back, and I was like, yeah, here's my marker collection. I got a lot of comments from people saying, oh, I bet those are all dried out. I've had a couple dry out, but really not that many. If you take care of your markers, and there's ways to do it, they won't dry out. So I suppose I could do a video on that. When companies hire you to design, do they find they want paper or digital? Most companies don't care. So if I'm doing a paper rendering, it's because someone asked for it, but I would say most people don't really care that much about paper versus other things. All right. So there I've got the yellow, and if I wanted to create a more dynamic presentation, what I could do is like even on these secondary sketches, capture some of that yellow, almost as if it's, the light in the image is being projected over. I feel like I don't have a light enough yellow here though for my light source, but let's see, maybe this 00 will work. I mean, you're barely going to even be able to see it, but at least this way I can kind of create a little bit of a gradient coming away from this bulb. Looks like I got some black in there. I'm trying to think if there's a fix for that. There's probably not a fix for that one. I'd have to paint it to fix that one, but I got a little bit of black on my marker, so whoops, it happens to the best of us. But maybe I could just fudge it a little bit just by making these lines a little bit heavier. Okay, so maybe something like that. And then just to finish it off, tie it all together, I'm going to do some gray just as a shadow on this other background, like so. I will say for clients, when you do digital sketches, they often think the design is done. It's over because it does look more finished. So how you present a concept can immediately infer to or immediately communicate to a client how done the thing is. So you want to watch out for that. All right, so there's two examples of how I think you could approach creative design while sketching. If you're starting from scratch, it's really just about asking questions and figuring out what those needs are or what the objective of the project might be, and then executing from there on. So there's our watch that we did earlier and our little funky lamp. So I'm going to set these to the side. All right, we got time for one more sketch. I'm going to go for another 15 minutes here. So let me know what you think. If there's something you want to see, definitely hit me up in the comments. Let me know. Once again, this is Sketch-A-Day Live every Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific. 9 a.m. Pacific. I live in Mountain Time, but 9 a.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. UTC. Definitely check in. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on your alerts, because otherwise you won't know when I post. And if you don't know when I post, how are you going to join, right? How are you going to join? If you want to support, like I said, there's Venmo or PayPal. I've had a few people in the past contribute, and that's been awesome. Not a requirement, but always welcome. So, and maybe I'd be open to doing a custom video for you guys. Could I sketch a fountain pen? A fountain. I suppose I could. In this instance, this is where I might look up an image of a fountain pen. I'm actually looking that up on my phone right now, because I want to make sure I get, let's see, fountain pen. I want to make sure I get the right details in. So reference a lot of times for me is just as simple as, hey, you know, I'm going to pull up my phone here, and now I can look and see, okay, the tip looks something like that. Cool. It's got that gold, yada, yada, yada. Barrel ink. Okay, cool. So just a quick like suitcase. Okay. Just a quick hit there, and then I can go, all right, something like this, if I remember from my quick visual hit. And we had like a barrel, and then the tip. So for the tip, what I'm going to do, I mean, I could probably just draw it straight, but let's just draw a line that would be the center of the tip, and then off to the side like so, and then down. And I'm imagining this is on some sort of curved surface like that. Like this is curving down, right? Tip has a little split like so. Shadow under that. I mean, if we want to get crazy, not crazy, but want to be fun, rather. This is going to be our lid. Or cap. That's what they call it, a cap, right? I feel like when I go live or I'm recording videos, sometimes my vocabulary gets really weird, so my apologies. If you're like, what is he talking about? That makes no sense. Sometimes I just get mixed up in my head. All right, so maybe that's her fountain pen. I'm gonna do something fun here. So I'm gonna grab my earth tones, because you make my earthquake. Oh, you make my earthquake. So earth tones in Copic markers are the E set of markers. So in your case, E markers, and I'm gonna go ahead and pick, let's see, let's do like a walnut look to the pen. So I'll just start usual way, outline, shadow core, Map out where the highlight's gonna be. Fill in, blend. Just like that. This is gonna be a huge jump, so I hope this is oh no, it's not a huge jump. Never mind. On to E. What's this? E29. Okay. Nice and dark through there. Fade our highlight in. Alright. Now, I'm going to just do some wood grain. Just taking a darker marker. This is an E49. Now I'm putting in some lines that kind of look like wood grain. Again, this is just stuff you kind of learn as you're opening your eyes and observing things. So definitely, you know, as you look around you, see if there's ways that you can kind of visually process and ask yourself, how could I make this real or make this happen in terms of a look or feel. And I think it makes it a little easier. So now I want some highlighted accents in the wood. So I'm just jumping to my little pencil box here and grabbing a few. Let's see, this is mineral orange. That might work. I just want like a light color that's complementary. Actually, I'm going to use this Deco Peach. Sharpen that guy up. Alright, so now I can come in and enhance some of these grain lines, like so. And maybe even add a couple little texture things here and there. But particularly where it's dark, just coming in and with that pencil, just hitting that area, like so. If you have a white pen, you could also do that. I really like this Pitt Artist pen. This is something I use quite a bit, so you check that out. A lot of art stores have them now, but just as a fine tip, so I can come in and really get some of these details. Enhance these grain lines rather. Or if I need to clean up the highlight, it's also something I can do with this. All right, and then the rest of this should be fairly simple. The barrel here, just give it a nice strong shadow core, fade out. If we want it super glossy, then we need to up the contrast close to kind of this highlight. So we can grab a pencil. You could also do this with ballpoint. I'm gonna go ahead and use a pencil here. Just like that. Just really hit this area. And then on the top, I'm just gonna hit the little pencil, like so. And now for the tip, because we're having fun, and this is Sketch-A-Day, I can actually paint this gold. Okay, so I've got this gold pen. We don't play here. We don't play. This is serious business. If it's gold, we're gonna make it gold. Okay. So there's my gold pen, or gold paint rather. And if I want to be careful, I can avoid some of these lines as I'm working. But if we have the paint, why not, right? Why not? I mean, I can think of a few reasons why, but including the fact that the marker paper might warp on me here. But YOLO. All good. Oh, shoot. Sorry, guys. Had a little mishap. Hang tight. Yes, you can play. All right, sorry guys. I spilled coffee on my little TV controller thing, so I'm hoping this will work. It might not. Okay, looks like it's still working, so glory be. Can you guys see stuff at all? I hope you can. Oh, there we go. Okay. Woo! We're back. I about died. I didn't spill water. I spilled coffee on my switcher. But it's working, so we're okay. I'm gonna end the stream in a minute, anyways. All right. So there's our pen. Let me angle this so you can kind of see without the glare. But yeah, there's your little fountain pen. And let's go ahead and just shade some of this stuff in. Yeah, I will not let that happen again for sure. That was nerve-wracking to say the least. At least this switcher isn't as expensive as the other one. So if it had fallen on my other one, then I'd be dying. I would be completely freaking out right now. So at least it wasn't that one. All right. So we'll just finish off the lid here. Maybe this is wood. I know we had one more request for some luggage, so I'll do that super quick. Tell me a little bit about the luggage, what type, what kind, all that good stuff. Material, color, and then I can just roll with it. But once again, thanks for joining. We're just having fun here on Sketchaday. As always, every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific. Although I live in the mountains. Someone actually messaged me last night and they were like, "Did you move to California?" I was like, "No, why?" "Well, you've been streaming at 9 a.m. Pacific." I'm like, "Yeah, it's just easier to say that than 9 a.m. Mountain or 10 a.m. Mountain." You guys would be like, "Mountain? What's that?" So, I just realized my ellipse is off, but whatever. YOLO. I'll probably fix it a little bit. There, looks a little bit better. And then I'm just gonna throw a quick shadow here. Just something sketchy. Like so. Rolling luggage hard case. Okay, cool. Easy enough. And maybe just some lines here for the background. Sometimes you just have to experiment and see what works and then go with it. This idea in my head kind of looks cool, so I'm hoping it looks cool in real life. Fountain pen. I feel like they don't really teach how to write in design school anymore. So I'm curious if you guys would want to see a video on kind of developing your designer handwriting and what that means and how to go about doing it. So let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. And I'd be happy to do a video on that sometime. A little bit of black here at the end just to ground these things on the page. like so. Also, another way I forgot to mention to support is if you do want to purchase the sketch after the stream, send me an email, and usually they're anywhere from 10 to 30 bucks, but let me know and we'll work something out. But happy to do that as well. Okay, so there is the fountain pen sketch. Yes to handwriting. Okay, cool. I will do a series of videos on those. It's probably not going to be just one video. So yeah, look out for that. Okay, we got, let's see, 6 p.m. CET. Okay, 6 p.m. CET. I was using UTC, but I'm guessing you don't use UTC. Let me know. Also, we got a lot of people joining this time, so thank you. Sorry, I just took a swig of coffee. Thank you for joining. We're having fun as always. I may do a couple more test streams this weekend, so if you guys are around and you want to join and just hang out, that's cool. I'll probably be doing my brush stuff, but let's get back to Chad's sketch. All right, so luggage cart. Well, not luggage cart, but hard rolling luggage hard case. I like color, so I'm immediately thinking of color in my head. I'm thinking something bright, poppy, easy to locate, has a zipper. I also like forms that have personality. So let's start with something like this. Whenever I do these luggage carts, I tend to, I'll just throw a guideline. So I tend to draw them in a way that's angled a little bit. But I kind of had this picture in my head. See, I'm already running out of space. But I have this picture in my head of how I want to do this card. So let's start with a box instead of a line. This box is just going to determine the volume I'm sketching around. Okay. And then I had this idea for something that has more personality or shape to it. So I'll sketch in kind of the bottom here. Maybe I'll do an overlay, we'll see. Depends on how I feel. And then we can kind of do the top. Actually, I'm gonna have this wrap over it. And yes, I'm definitely gonna do an overlay at this point, mostly because of this corner. I've kind of bungled it for the rendering purposes or sketch purposes here. But it's enough to kind of help me place things. And, you know, the wheels are in a bad spot there, so I need to kind of show them just a little peek of a wheel. Because you don't really want your wheels, well, unless the bottom is like this, or it has 4 wheels. I mean, that's certainly one way to do it. Okay, let's do 4 wheels. And then I want the zipper to kind of go around the whole thing, but from a side view, I was kind of thinking this type of shape. So zipper in the middle or closer to the front here. Maybe a little flat section so it could rest flat on the ground, and then we've got our wheels, that kind of thing. And maybe this is where, you know, the retractable portion is stored as well. So I'm going to draw that over. Okay, CET is UTC plus 1R. Okay, cool. That makes sense. You guys probably think we're weird here in the US because, I mean, metric is way better, but we still use the imperial system, which is crazy, but whatever. All right, so let's do this one more time. So I'm gonna round here, and the reason I'm rounding here is we have zippers that need to go, you know, around, and then around, and then curve, like so. And now I can do my wheel platform just a little bit inset. You'll notice I'm rotating my paper as I go. That lets me kind of set things up to however it is I'm accustomed to drawing, what makes the most sense. Always want to be you're most comfortable, you're most at ease, and that's going to lead to your best work. So when I do sketches like this, like if you look at the wheels, they're not particularly defined. That's because they're not really the main focus or part of the sketch, and all I really need to do to get buy-in from a human looking at this is create a symbol that is wheel, and so that is a symbol that is wheel, and so it just works out that way. Okay, so on the back we had this little section. I'm going to capture that, and now our handle, like so. Something like this. Okay, if this is a hard case, I'm guessing there's no zippers on it, or not zippers, but there's no, you could still have a hard case or hard shell with zippers, but there's probably not any pockets on it, is what I'm trying to say. So, like I mentioned, I kind of want to do maybe some bright colors here. Here's my side view sketch. We'll carry this through onto this page. Just again, just a rough sketch to kind of show overall, or not overall, but additional information that might be beneficial to understanding the design. Okay, and you can connect them with some sort of background element. If necessary, an arrow, that kind of thing. Alright, so something like that. Now I can remove my underlay. Let me zoom out a little bit. It's a little bit tight here on the screen. Okay, so now you can see the full page and the mess around on my desk. Okay, color options. Red, green, yellow, purple, pink. What color should we make the suitcase? I'm gonna work on the metal stuff first while I wait for you guys to kind of give me some direction. So since it's metal here, I can just use gray. The handle portion I'm gonna save for color. But some of the stuff, you know, like the wheels, I'll just keep those gray. I can work on a shadow. Okay, so we got 1 vote for red. I'm just gonna count that as 1 vote. What else we got? Alright, a little bit of gray here. Red, red. I'm most definitely not a surgeon when it comes to this stuff. I'm always learning, always practicing. I always make mistakes, and you know, I appreciate those who call that out in a respectful way. I'm gonna caveat that because, man, some people are just like wild when it comes to feedback, but most definitely appreciated. Blue. Okay, so we got 2 red, 1 pink, blue, and 2 green. So we need a tiebreaker. Who's gonna be the tiebreaker? I'm gonna give it another 30 seconds or so. The choices are red or green for this suitcase. What's it gonna be? In the meantime, I will shade this in. My little shadow here. This was fun. Thank you for the suggestions, as always. Super fun. Hopefully you guys are having a good Friday. Or great Friday, I should say. Not meant to imply the holiday itself. Oh, I got 3 blue. Alright, blue it is. So I thought it was going to be green or red, but looks like blue won out. Ah, we got 2 more. Okay, this is it. I'm gonna count to 10, and then, oh, hi Jordan. And then, so I'm gonna count to 10, and then in my head, because I think there's a delay on the stream, and then I'm just gonna pick a color. All right. Okay, so we got blue vote, we got a red vote, got green. So I think I'm gonna keep my blue and green close by, just in case. Got my blue right here. All right, I'm counting up. Let's see. Got red, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 blue, 1 purple. I'm gonna count the purple as blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm doing something blue or purple, something in that vein. All right. I feel like I don't have the best blues though, but we're gonna roll with it. So I've got, let's see, 97, 99, 63. I always have to test these because I don't use my blues as much as others. So we're just gonna do some stuff and see where we land. Thank you for not asking me to draw a card today, by the way. I think I draw a lot of cards, and so it's nice to kind of do something a little bit different. If you're wondering what I'm doing right now, just like looking at these numbers, I believe I have a video on this. Maybe I don't, but I'll hold this up to the camera so you can see. So each Copic marker has a number, and what I'm trying to do, so take for example this 93 and 99. The first number on the marker is actually indicating you could say the hue, and then the second number is the value. So 9, 3 is less than 9, right? So this one is lighter than this one, but they're in the same color family. So as I look through my blues, that's what I'm kind of looking for is, okay, can I find a few that work nicely together? I've got this 24, 29, and 28, for example. So I could try those, and these are kind of a more intense blue. And because of the Copic color system and how it works, I don't need to necessarily test all these for a visual match on the blue, because I have confidence in these inks and in the number system. So I can just, let's start with our 24. Okay. So just like I always do, outline first, and then we'll fill in. Now, since this is a hard case, we get to determine surface finish. And for this suitcase, I'm going to say it is shinier. So this corner is going to get, a different treatment, for example. So I'm just going to put a nice marker edge there. And then here I have this line on the sketch that's indicating some sort of transition. Wenli Chua is asking, how do I keep my markers from drying out? Well, you do want to keep them in an airtight container, but it's also helpful to have refill inks. So these are all my, not all, I actually have way more. These are some refill inks that I have for my markers. Yes, I love drawing so much that I have absolutely invested in these markers. Some of them are free or were free. Some of them I just acquired from, I think I did some work for Copic back in the day, and then my old professor gave me a couple markers. So, you can also buy them on eBay. I used to buy them cheaper on eBay and then get the inks to then refill them if they were drying out. So that's one way to get good quality markers real cheap. So definitely check eBay. You can always check with colleges, old art students, that kind of thing. All right, back to the suitcase, and then we'll wrap it up. I've been streaming way too long today, but we're having fun. So reflection here. Now I have the ground, okay, and the ground's gonna get some light, but there's also light coming from above. But what I want to do is show that maybe this is picking up some of the reflection of this white ground. So I have this kind of S shape in the marker here, but in addition to that, okay, so let's say we have a couple lines like this. Toward the top of this reflection area, I want it to show that, hey, I'm receiving light, okay, from up high. So just a little gradation like that, and then I like to have contrast where I have my lightest lights. So I'm creating my blend in a way that blends down, and then here we have the ground. So because the ground essentially is receiving that light, reflecting it up. If you want an illustration of that, let's jump to the under sketch here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So let's say this piece of luggage is sitting on the floor. Maybe this is a corner of a room, for example. Light rays are going to hit the ground, and this is a little bit of math, but this angle of incidence, I, is going to be equal to the angle of reflection, R. So that's how reflections work. When you hit a planar surface, that angle is reflected back. So now this light that hits the white floor is going to be projected up into the suitcase. Because this is curved, okay, the suitcase is curved, we're going to be getting some nice white spots. So that's why I put that little S shape in, to show that it's picking up some of the white of the ground. Now if this were red or some other color, I'd probably have to shade in, you know, a little bit of red and start to add atmospheric effects and so forth into this. But that's the logic behind reflections. So if you've ever wondered what's happening and why is this designer doing what they do, that is why. I think my camera is cutting out. Hopefully it's okay. All right, so just on the side here, and then we'll wrap it up. I think I'm talking too much today. Want to create a gradient, top down, on the side, something like this. Okay, I'm just gonna keep the top really nice and light. Maybe on the side here, just fade down. So again, this is that effect with the digital marker I was trying to replicate. There it is right there. So I think if you do purchase those, you should have, I think OBS is quitting out on me here. Give me just a sec. Let's see. I'm gonna pause for just a sec. Okay, we're back. All right. So now this was the B24, so now I'm going to jump to B28, which is probably a little bit bigger of a jump, but I'm not sure I have anything in between. So let me see what I have real quick. I do want something dark as well, so I'll keep that handy. So I'm going to jump to this 28. Keeps cutting out back and forth, so let me restart my camera, see if that helps. Okay. Might actually be my stream box. I don't know if it's gonna survive my coffee spill or not, but whatever. Okay, so now I'm using this B28 and I'm gonna kind of do the same thing, just create a nice little gradient going down, darkest darks against lightest lights, blend those together. And those areas where you had, you know, your darkest colors, just work it over with that darker marker. Yeah, I think I'm losing the thread on this streaming box, so we'll just wrap this up real quick. But again, Copics, I like them because they do blend pretty well, especially if you get the paper a little bit wet, and then if you move fast enough, jump to your next marker, you can kind of come up with a decent blend as you go. Yeah, my streaming box might be giving out here, so let's see. Really hope not, but yeah, it's cutting in and out, guys. So I think I'm gonna have to wrap here, and then I'll take a look at the hardware, make sure everything's okay, and then you know, next week or next time or tomorrow, depending on when I decide to stream again, we'll be back. Hopefully things will be fixed by then, but lesson learned, don't have your stream box near your coffee or drink or whatever you got going on. But there's my quick luggage thing. I'd probably keep working this, so I've got now a 29, okay, blue. So probably just keep working it, getting a contrast in, and so forth, like so. And because this side is on the far side, I do want it to appear darker. Looks like I got some smudge there, but that's okay. So here with my 28, I can just kind of work this side down. How I match the color code. Yeah, the color code, the first number. Actually, what I'll do is do a video in the future, because my video system here is completely wigging out. So I'll just say we'll be back. We will. Let's see, is this even working? Yeah, I think it just gave up on me now. Oh wait, here we go. Black cut. Yeah, let me see if this works. Okay. Hopefully this doesn't cut out. If it keeps cutting out, it's definitely the video switcher, but I just reconnected the USB connection, so we'll see how that does. I think on this side too, one of the interesting things that would happen, and I don't have time to calculate it now, but you would actually get like some black, okay, because of, imagine this is projected out, okay, this shadow, and we also have this plane. You're gonna get this shadow reflecting into the side of the suitcase, okay? So that's something that's also gonna happen. I can probably, it looks like the video is stable now, so, spoke too soon. But I can probably do a video specifically on reflections, but that's just something I'm trying to capture here, is that there would be a little bit of that reflection in the side of the suitcase as well. If I had a little lighter blue, I could fade that in, but we don't, so I'm just gonna march ahead. So I think I'm gonna call it good here, guys, because like I said, my video is completely wigging out today, and I don't know why. So yeah, I'm gonna take a look at this guy and see if I can fix things, and hopefully it's not completely busted. But thanks for joining, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend, everyone. I'll be posting these sketches as well on the Google Drive. There'll be a link, so watch out for that. But I'm gonna finish this one up and then I'll post it. Okay, thanks guys. Take care.